Hello. Happy holidays to you. The busy season for me is winding down, which means in practical terms, my cough's a bit better. My cat's doing better. If you know, you know. He got sick. He's getting better. We're going to get him back today. Pretty soon he'll be streaming again. But before we do that, we have to do something that's not streaming because I'm too busy to stream today. Have you seen the civil war going on Twitter right now? It's for the most part, I guess nowadays it's like people who think that we should bring Jim Crow back versus people who think we shouldn't, versus people who think we should reinstitute slavery. Like big minds going on, discussing these top ideas over at X, the Everything app. However, more specifically, so I'm trying to bring this back here, okay? I'm trying to keep my thoughts focused because there's honestly so much here and it's so funny. There are so many lines you could go down. So, okay, Elon Musk, genius, as we all know. He's a Silicon Valley tech guy, venture capital. He himself not much of a computers nerd, though he likes to pretend to be. But Silicon Valley is built off of H-1B visas, in large part because America, this is like the epicenter of technological advancement, particularly when it comes to the kind of stuff that Silicon Valley does, whether that be like computer-related venture capital bullshit or actual genuine computer science. This is the Silicon Valley area is like one of the hotspots. And even if it's not over there, you've got places in Texas and Florida where it's a little bit cheaper to set up office space. And you've got big tech hubs out of like Austin and stuff. America is a great place to be if you know your way around computers. And as a consequence of that, oftentimes when people are starting up their own firms in America that have anything to do with technology, they look to H-1B visas. What that means is basically immigrants who come from afar over here to work, and their stay here in America is contingent upon them continuing to work. So a number of things here, okay? There are the overall, like this big battle, the civil war going on Twitter right now stems from the fact that Elon and then later Vivek Ramaswamy, the two top minds over at Doge, the Department of Governmental Efficiency, for those of you who've been living under a rock, the big boys, they are both pro H-1B visa. Well, why? There are two main reasons. First of all, it is easier to exploit people who are coming into America on an H-1B visa because, again, their stay here in America is contingent upon their work, which means that if they get fired, whoop, they don't have all the same rights and privileges as an American citizen. Now, H-1B visas aren't like, migrant farm workers. They're not like being paid under the table or whatever. In many cases, they're actually paid quite a lot. But there's still a strong incentive for them to stay at their work, regardless of how punishing the hours are. And a lot of these Silicon Valley jobs where they have like a frozen yogurt machine behind the counter in the lobby of the startup, and they have like a slide that you can take to get from the third floor to the first, but you're working 14-hour days. And that's the kind of stuff that maybe an American citizen thinks they can find something better, but somebody who is relying on this work to stay here in the country. I mean, imagine you're a really top of the line computer engineer from India, right? India is a big country, produces a lot of, phenomenal talent. And India, big bustling country that it is, just doesn't really have the same opportunities America does when it comes to how to put that big brain of theirs to use. They want to come on over here and they'll probably be willing to put up with a lot in order to stay. So that's one of the reasons why tech firms like, H-1B visa applicants, why they like to use them as workers. And it means they get to be, mistreated. A lot of the right-wing capitalist attitude towards labor, especially immigrant labor, is how can we use their status as an immigrant to get more from them, the fact that undocumented workers are undocumented means you can pay them less, pay them under the table, and you can exploit them, you can abuse them, because what are they going to do? Go to the police? They'll get deported. H-1B visas are not as serious as that, but it's like a weaponization of their immigration status nonetheless. The second main reason Silicon Valley and likewise likes to rely on H-1B visas is because a lot of Americans are just not up to the task. Look, we got a lot of high, top tier jobs over here. A lot of, firms looking to employ the best. We got a whole world out there full of smarty pantses. You think American firms are going to settle for less just because they're limited to a domestic pool of workers when they can be getting more exploitable and oftentimes smarter laborers from abroad? Every mediocre white boy who didn't get the job they wanted out of Silicon Valley loves to complain about this and talk about how there's like this, DEI incentive against hiring white people. God's honest truth is, oftentimes it's just a merit thing. And that's the exact opposite of the DEI they like to complain about. But as we all know, of course, when right-wingers whine about DEI, they don't actually mean they hate diversity programs or whatever, because they have no issues at all with deliberate efforts made to promote or, prioritize white people or men or whatever. It's just, they don't like seeing non-white people. So even a merit-based system comes across as DEI to them. Anyway, I'm leading this up way too much. What are we, 6 minutes in? I've got stuff to do. My God. Look, the long and short of it is this, okay? Elon defended H-1B visas. Elon is broadly anti-education. He said recently in a very like Rick Sanchez-esque way, if you need school, it's already too late for you, in response to people talking to him about what he wants from like the workforce here in America, which these are two contradictory positions, right? How can you support programs that bring in immigrants capable of doing this tech work, these H-1B visa applicants, but also not support education for Americans? If you think about it for more than a few seconds, it might kind of make it look like you prioritize the profits and the ability to exploit labor that your firms enjoy over the well-being and health of America. The country. Like, if you think about it for 2 seconds and you try to merge these policies where Elon Musk is in favor of bringing in, computer science engineers and what have you from wherever in the world based on their merit, but also wants to destroy the Department of Education and, doesn't care for people locally being schooled, it kind of, if you think about it for like 2 seconds, kind of makes it look like you don't give a shit about this country or anyone except for, yourself and your own bank account. God, I wish I had the time to dig all through this. He's been really, really fighting over it. Like really, really, really fighting over it. The immigration hot button top is the biggest DKE situation I've ever seen. People seem to be missing the fact you're asserting that it's elite engineering talent that we have a shortage of in America, like 0.01 to 0.001%. And if we don't fill the shortage with immigrants in the short term, we will lose. Maybe this is a helpful clarification. I'm referring to bringing in, via legal immigration, the top roughly 0.1% of engineering talent as being essential for America to keep winning. The reason why Laura Loomer is trending over here is because she did a little bit of digging and found that Elon actually relies on H-1B labor for a lot of positions, not just the top 0.1%. When Elon took over Twitter, some of the only people remaining after there had been like waves and waves of firing were H-1B visa holders. Like you saw like photos of like the X selfies where the remaining engineers were taking pics after hundreds and hundreds of people left, and a lot of them were H-1B visa workers, And the reason for that is because like they had to deal with a sudden influx of shit that a lot of American citizens just flat out did not want to, Why would they want that? Right? It's usually people who don't got another option. Elon's really been kicking it. I mean, he retweeted this. You can just look at his feed. I'm sorry, it's like a million tweets. Elon tweets like 1,000 times a day. I can't do all of this. Can we get to the funny part, please? He's been battling with a bunch of MAGA racists who are earnestly upset at the idea that any genius Indian could get a job in America over the most retarded American would have gone pro in football had he not hurt his knee kind of guy, okay? Look, America just ain't that smart. We got a lot of top-end talent, but our educational, outcomes, the attainment, it's not that good, and it's getting worse, okay? We're certainly below comparably wealthy per capita peerage. And why is that? I mean, well, we fucking hate education in this country. We have a cultural disregard for it, and it's getting worse really fast. The funny thing is that again, people like Elon make this worse to an astronomical extent by dressing up his genuine low IQ retardation with this veneer of Rick Sanchez sci-fi woohoo, let's go to Mars. I don't know how anything works, but we'll talk it up anyway. It is the stuff of anti-intellectualism. RFK Jr., all this COVID fear-mongering bullshit. People are getting stupider, and that's not just me doing the standard, grumpy old man, I just turned 30, I'm going to say that the world is getting worse. We are entering like an unprecedented era of anti-intellectualism and disinformation being propagated largely because it profits a very, very, very small number of people on the top. And it's going to get worse. I mean, you could talk about like AI as well, how it seems like no one's doing essays in schools anymore. They're just getting ChatGPT to do it for them. It's basically impossible to detect. People are working less. They're doing less. They're using their brains less. Whatever. It's a real issue, okay? I don't blame people, by the way. I don't have anything against H-1B visas, like as a concept, I want America to prosper. It's the country that I live in. I want the country to do well, and that often means attracting top talent. Racists hate this, but the fact that America is a lighthouse, a beacon for people, that's a good thing for the country. Like, they're like, oh, we despise the fact. How can America survive when people from all over the world, especially the wealthiest, most educated people, want to come over here? How could America possibly survive this? Well, I don't know. Easily, actually. We're the most powerful, wealthiest country in the world. You want to know why wages are depressed? Why our cities are dangerous and unworkable? Look up. Not around you, not outside the border. All these decisions are being made by a small group of very powerful people, okay? The most powerful of which is Elon Musk, and you're licking his boots. Well, not now they're not, because Elon's not being sufficiently pro-white for them. Okay, so anyway, setting the stage for all of that, Elon's at war. They're arguing. Seriously, go look at Elon's recent tweets, anything from the past 48 hours. Motherfucker is getting bombarded by every MAGA account. They're accusing him of being America last, which in fairness he is, but like, two wrongs don't make a right here. Enter Vivek Ramaswamy. It's good so far, okay? But this is the real kicker. Vivek, of course, an unelected bureaucrat appointed to run Doge with Elon, also a midwit. Vivek made his money through what I would consider fraudulent. The law disagrees, but basically it was a pump and dump. He took hold of a failing company that was working on Alzheimer's medication, talked it up, invest. He hired like a small team of people, some of which were his family, brought the shareholder value of the company up through the roof before he had actually anyone had evaluated or tested the efficacy of the drug that he was working on, and then he sold his shit right before that went to market. It didn't work, kablamo. He basically just made bank, like a few billion off of investor money, which, I'm not crying I'm not, upset that the investors lost their money. It's just remarkable how the entire economy is grift these days. Vivek, of course, also very much in the tech bro space, both in terms of his kind of venture capital interests and also in his aesthetic and rhetoric. So he jumps in on this to defend H-1B visas. Vivek is, of course, also Indian. So a lot of H-1B visa holders are Indian. There's a lot of anti-Indian racism being directed to them broadly. I literally saw an Indian guy saying of course I'm one of the good ones, but these two in particular, get them out of here or something to that effect. I'm rambling. Let's get to the copy pasta. Oh, baby. The reason top tech companies often hire foreign-born and first-generation engineers over native Americans isn't because of an innate American IQ deficit, a lazy and wrong explanation. A key part of it comes down to the C word, culture. Tough questions demand tough answers, and if we're really serious about fixing the problem, we have to confront the truth. I'm not kidding. My man's unironically pulling out of his hat the white people need to fix their culture card. And let's not pretend that this isn't a white people thing, because this has been a race war from minute one of the discourse starting with Elon, okay? This is not about American versus foreign engineering talent. This is about keeping your work in America and white versus keeping it. It's very clear when you look at the comments. So Vivek is either jumping in on this, knowing this, and throwing out a white culture argument, or Well, I mean, let's read. Our American culture has venerated mediocrity over excellence for way too long, at least since the 90s and likely longer. That doesn't start in college, it starts young. A culture that celebrates the prom queen over the math Olympiad, champ or the jock over the valedictorian will not produce the best engineers. While you were making touchdowns, I studied computer science. Remarkable. A culture that venerates Corey from Boy Meets World, or Zack and Slater over Screech in Saved by the Bell, or Stefan over Steve Urkel in Family Matters will not produce the best engineers. Fact. I know multiple sets of immigrant parents in the 90s who actively limited how much their kids could watch those TV shows precisely because they promoted mediocrity. And their kids went on to become wildly successful STEM graduates. More movies like Whiplash, fewer reruns of Friends, more math tutoring, fewer sleepovers, more weekend science competitions, fewer Saturday morning cartoons, more books, less TV, more creating, less chillin', more extracurriculars, less hanging out at the mall. Most normal American parents look skeptically at those kinds of parents. More normal American kids view those kinds of kids with scorn. If you grow up aspiring to normalcy, normalcy is what you'll achieve. Now close your eyes and visualize which families you knew in the 90s, or even now, who raised their kids according to one model versus the other. Be brutally honest. Normalcy doesn't cut it in a hyper-competitive global market for technical talent. And if we pretend like it does, we'll have our asses handed to us by China. This can be our Sputnik moment. We've awakened from slumber. We've awakened from slumber before, and we can do it again. Trump's election hopefully marks the beginning of a new golden era in America, but only if our culture fully wakes up. A culture that once again prioritizes achievement over normalcy, excellence over mediocrity, nerdiness over conformity, hard work over laziness. It's unironically like a manifesto. Nice guys finish last. Why do people like the job? Why don't more people like Steve Urkel? Why don't we have more shows? You know, we need more young Sheldon. Maybe if more young people watched young Sheldon, things would be better. The funny thing is, to an extent, he's correct. There are a lot of like distinctly anti-intellectual, like pro-laziness trends that you can identify that are venerated in American culture that as a consequence leads people to kind of like look down on hard work. There's a difference. There is a big difference between like the Protestant work ethic kind of American attitude where we turn our nose up at people who don't earn what they get, which is one of the reasons why Americans despise welfare, even a lot of the people who are on it. But that's not quite the same as aspiring to greatness in a way that actually like manifests in real world outcomes. You know, Americans are very aspirational. Like culturally we're extremely aspirational. That's just generally like we're very like eyes up here, you know. But at the same time, how much of that manifests in a way that like practically improves your life? And I would argue that like a lot of the aspirational cultural touchstones, you know, that we've kind of built off of, a lot of the things that we value, we built it off of like, you know, manifest destiny, homesteading, the cowboy attitude, like rugged American individualism. But how much of these things help you when like getting ahead in the economy today? It comes down to like getting lucky with, you know, venture capital grifting, making an OnlyFans account, or like, you know, hoping that you can get a golden parachute after the startup that you got in on the ground floor at, you know, gets invested in highly and jumping before the whole thing comes crashing down. It's a mess out there, right? Like how much of this actually comes back to an American attitude for exceptionalism. If you take a look at our test scores compared to like, you know, other comparably wealthy countries, clearly not that much. We would get our asses beat. We do get our asses beat when it comes to our educational outcomes compared to say like South Korea or China. But our economy is a lot stronger than South Korea's or China's. China's economy is still smaller than ours. It's been tapering off despite the much larger population. So where's the where's the contradiction? Well, there's so much tied up in this, but like, this is a situation where everybody is wrong. Okay. Vivek is wrong here because like productivity in this case, what he says when he means productivity is shareholder value. The man has never earned an honest buck in his life. Everything that he's made, his enormous wealth, is built off the back of grifting. You know, he sold a faulty product. He inflated value to investors, and then he skedaddled. That's what he does. Okay. So to him, this is all a shareholder value thing. But that economy is fake. It's not representative of anything outside of vibe, shareholder interest. Real economic strength, the efficient allocation of resources and labor where it's needed, the ability for a nation and its economy to robustly shift and adapt to meet the needs of its population, the strength of our supply lines. In many ways, America is strong. In many ways, we are quite weak. There are many, many, like, holes, unfilled patches all over this system that we've built. He wants Americans to be more like H-1B visa applicants. That is to say, docile. He wants them to grow up and never question authority. He wants them to be conformist. He wants them to be like little bug people, because that's what capital holders want workers to be. They want them to be docile and obedient in ways that benefit the value of the company, but not in ways that actually enrich their lives. That's the context of the conversation that we're having here, okay? He's comparing American workers to H-1B visa workers. Even if Americans and, let's say, Indians were both exactly identical on the normalized intelligence and ability to do, let's say, computer science, let's say you could just literally per capita identical outcomes there, you would still have a ton of Indian engineers wanting to come to this country, because this country is fucking sick and it has a lot of money flying around, and there's a lot of Indians. There's no getting around this. Again, I'm not in favor of protectionist, nationalist, oh no, you shouldn't get good talent from outside the country. You should arbitrarily limit yourself to, the Americans who apply to your job. I just think that we have to recognize that this is just another way for capital holders to encourage subservience. I mean, how much can Vivek really care about education? How much can Elon really care about education? They both literally want to destroy the Department of Education, and they're probably going to succeed. How much do they care? They don't. Their position is hypocritical in exactly the same way the position of many Republicans who oppose undocumented immigration is hypocritical. We literally saw, I remember seeing like a Vice documentary, or maybe even CNN on stream just a month ago maybe, where there were farmers, not people who worked the farms, mind you, but rich white men who watches other people work the farms, farm owners, who voted Republican, and they were like, yep, voted Republican, got to do something, got to fix the country. Hope Trump reconsiders deporting the illegals, though. A lot of them work here, and we provide them good jobs and such, of course. It's doublethink. It's a contradiction, Everyone is wrong here. Vivek and Elon want submissive, docile bug people that they can bully around and make work 23-hour days. But a lot of the people who are mad at Elon and Vivek are just racist and don't actually want to improve working conditions for anyone, right? All these MAGA warriors that you can find down in the comments, freaking out over this. What do you mean? What do you mean a country with 1.4 billion people might have highly attained, accomplished engineers who might want to work here and improve the value of your company? Aren't Americans enough? I know what your hiring roles look like. Let me fucking, they're just mad because they're racist. Everyone's wrong here. It is funny to see them tear themselves apart over this. Hopefully this leads to a lot more ill will towards Elon from the racist right. Elon is authentically racist. He is a genuinely racist person. But like all capitalists, he's ultimately beholden to his material interest. And it is bad for business to suggest that, companies with an international reach should limit themselves to American workers, especially for something like tech, where oftentimes, you can get an insane amount of it. Dude, just look at the history of Silicon Valley or any major tech company. It's riddled with immigrants. It's pretty impressive. It's almost like we've got a really powerful country that attracts top tier talent from all over the world. Not to defend Silicon Valley or whatever. I feel I'm rambling. These motherfuckers down here don't give a shit about American workers. They have never once in their life advocated for a single progressive cause. They are not pro-union. They are not pro-higher minimum wage. If they see a person who's laid off, they see a homeless man on the street, they make fun of him. They laugh at him. These people are contemptuous. They despise the poor, and they despise people who fight for better working conditions. How many MAGA types, how many racist types you see out there fighting for better work, like UAW, Teamsters, the Starbucks union? You see them fighting for that? No, they don't give a shit. Their ideology is built on hatred. These guys only like immigration when it raises the value of the shareholders that have invested in their corporation. It really is. It's just funny to see the two almost like innately contradictory positions clashing with each other. This ain't the 1930s anymore, you know? We're in a post-globalization world. If you want to say Germany's for Germans back in like the 1930s, you know, if you're Adolf Hitler, okay, buddy? We don't have like international airfare. It's the 1930s. What job are people, you know, on about back then? You've got factory workers. You pull your, you know, illiterate poor from the countryside away from farming into there. What do you got? Shoe carvers? I don't know. It's a different world now. Cutting America off from the rest of the world would be ruinous to everyone. Inside the country, outside the country, white, black, Indian, whatever. I mean, it's like the right fell for it again award, right? You know, the Wojak, right? Fell for it again. Like a Elon guy. Whoa, you're telling me all of the epic hardcore, you know, make America great again, Trump cabinet billionaires are more concerned with making money than they are with. The crazy thing is that a lot of the MAGA racist types are Nazis. They're anti-Semitic. And they're like, unironically, they'll be like, yeah, George Soros, that billionaire, he's bought out the government. You know, he claims to care about the American people, but in reality, he's just using his money and his investments to advance his own nefarious schemes. And then they cheer on Elon. Like, guy, George Soros and Elon are, in a material sense, the same guy. They're just giant blobs of money personified that do things that make them more money. It's the same thing. I don't know. It's really crazy. I want to see that Laura Loomer clip though. Oh yeah, where she posted like a bunch of the people making like $70,000 or $80,000 a year who work with Tesla, who are on H-1B visas. Obviously not like top 0.001% level talent or whatever insane, you know, percentage Elon referenced. You get me, right? Look, seriously, just go look at the tweets if you want to see some really funny engagement. It is insane how mad people are over this. And Lamau, you've been waiting since you were 9 years old to have the chance to post this. Very long-winded way of saying you think Americans are lazy and worthless and tech oligarchs prefer desperate H-1B employees who are willing to work 90 hours a week because the alternative is getting thrown out of the country. That's true, Nikki Haley Foreskin Groiper. You're completely correct on this. Of course, you know, the world you want to build would end up enforcing that misery on everyone. So not, you know, the devil doesn't need to be given his due. It really is like a Hitler's on both sides kind of situation. Hitler's on both sides. So basically, tech bros prefer foreign-born workers because they're willing to work 90 hours a week rather than having a work-life balance. Got it. You think Brendan Dilley over here, host of the Dilley Show, I hear, do you think he's ever like pushed for any policies that would improve the work-life balance of workers before? Or do you think he only gets up in arms about this when he thinks it like promotes a greater percentage of white people finding jobs in the United States at the expense of H-1B immigrant, you know, visa holders or whatever? Do you think that's something he actually cares about? Or do you think that like all of these Nazis and racists getting super ass mad over what Vivek said are just, you know, pretending to care about workers' rights selectively? Meanwhile, they have done literally nothing to advance that cause for anyone, including white people. This is one of the things that I've said. People say, like, you know, what's the difference? Black power, white power. I tell you, all the time I've been doing this, I have never seen, and I mean never seen any white supremacist do anything to help white people. Never. You don't catch them down at the charities. You don't catch them at the bread lines. You don't catch them promoting policies in white majority areas to help such and such. You don't catch them advocating for policies that improve conditions and such and such. They exclusively try to make things worse for non-white people. No exceptions. They do literally nothing to make white people's lives better. You take a look at the history of Black Power, you know, the goddamn Black Panthers were setting up, you know, free breakfast kitchens in Chicago to help like black youth, well, anyone who wanted to go there, you know, have breakfast before they went to school. You see white supremacists doing that? No. Totally different ideology built on hate. They got nothing to offer the world, just anger. It's crazy. You heard that. 30 minutes. What the hell? And it was all rambling too. They'll never watch this far.